Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Growth Fit interview series brought to you by Custom Fit AI. My name is Ashwini. I am the growth engineer at Custom Fit AI. Custom Fit AI helps B2B companies to convert website traffic into quality leads by dynamically changing website content and CTAs based on user persona and past behaviors. It's a no-code platform for marketers to dynamically create hyper-personalized experiences to lift their conversions. Our today's guest is Madhav Bhandari. Welcome, Madhav, and thank you so much for joining us here.
Great to be here. Thanks a lot.
Madhav is currently working with Bonsai as a marketing head. He's also founder of remote marketing, if I'm not wrong, Madhav, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So let's just dive in today marketing tips from Madhav.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. First, I want to understand about your journey, like from management trainee to at Touch Techno to marketing head in Bonsai. So, how you started, what all challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them to reach to this position?
Yeah. So you're basically asking like almost a decade of my entire work
Yeah.
history. So I think to kind of like just to kind of give a very short story to kind of keep this in under a minute is yeah, I mean like I've always been very entrepreneurial even in college. So when I kind of got out of college, it was like you know I didn't want to kind of be with like, a big company where, there are processes and creative blockers and stuff like that. So like the first 2 years, like Touch Techno and Clinchpad, these were all kind of like companies where I was kind of like a founding member and we were trying to build a product and we did raise funding and we did get, users and, a lot of revenue. But at that point it was just understanding how like it was all a starting point for me, right? So probably a little early in kind of like the founding stage. So from there I basically got an opportunity to join a company called HubStuff, which was kind of at like a slightly more advanced stage in terms of post product market fit, and I was invited to kind of lead the marketing there. So I was kind of employee number three there, joined the company at about 200,000 annually in revenue. And then, I was there for about 4 years. We grew the company to about 5 million. And,
Oh,
right
that's
now it's making about 15 million. So, that was where I basically kind of got through kind of like really what does it take to kind of, take through kind of like all of these different stages of the revenue funnel for a business. And then, yeah, and through that experience, it was just blogging my learnings and through those, through kind of like sharing all of my work online, I got connected with, the next couple of companies, be it Close.io or Bonsai, and kind of got those marketing leadership roles. So I think that hopefully summarizes what I did.
so when you started, it was you started from scratch, right? In HubStuff and in
Yeah.
also in other companies.
Uh, I mean, every company was at a different phase. Like for example, a Clinchpad, Touch Techno, pre-product market fit, HubStuff, post-product market fit. Close was at a you know pretty high revenue scale, so that was a different challenge. So it was all at different revenue timelines. But yeah, so at HubStuff, it was yes, it was at a very early stage.
And can you share something about Bonsai and your own company, remote marketing? Like what problems you solve and what is going on in your marketing team right now?
Yeah. So Bonsai is basically, it's a software for freelancers to kind of run their business. We help them, remove the boring admin work with freelancing, and help them look more professional for clients. Um, and yeah, that's the mission. Like, it's used by 300,000 plus freelancers and all of that. Remote marketing, on the other hand, has been my personal side project for about 5 years now. And it was really just this, I was talking about, I've for like almost 8 years now, I've worked with 100% remote teams, built like these global international remote marketing
Oh.
teams. So I had like a little different perspective on like building out these marketing teams and building out a growth engine. So it was just me kind of sharing learnings through the blog, and then I connected with a bunch of people, started doing interviews, created these different forms of content, and then basically it became like a big resource hub for anyone,
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
especially in the B2B SaaS world.
And you are in this like remote marketing since 8 years. So how do you feel like this remote marketing, remote working is trending now, like after pandemic. But you have, I think, some other thought in your mind when you started. It's long back, right?
Yeah, I mean, the remote working thing kind of obviously became a lot more popular in the last 2 years, and it was kind of like a forced change. At that time, it was just by accident, I was working partially remote with, with some of my, teammates at Clinchpad and all, and we were just kind of collaborating remotely. And so at that time, we didn't even know, it's remote working. It was just the way we worked. And then kind of like this whole 100% remote team started becoming more and more popular.
Popular.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, it's like the thing is that remote working's also been there since 2003. You used to have satellite workers, especially in tech that used to work. So it's just the trend's kind of catching up, and I'm glad it's catching up. But yeah, it's been there for a long time.
And I'm really curious, Madhav, to know about your journey from 100K dollar to ARR to $10 million ARR. So your contribution in this commendable growth.
Yeah, I don't think in any way whenever we talk about growth journeys, it's not like I obviously helped in that, but there's the contribution of the entire team. Everyone has contributed in their own way. My contribution has basically come, from the like you know, I am I'd say I got about 80% of the results on kind of like top of the funnel, where basically demand gen, kind of like increasing our demand, increasing our awareness, increasing the number of signups, increasing the top of the funnel. Yes, I've worked on some, retention and churn and conversion projects, but it's primarily been the demand gen side. So yeah, and so my work has primarily been how do we kind of scale that top of the funnel, bring in a large amount of customers, because a lot of companies I've worked with were product led, with a low LTV. So it required us to be innovative, be in a little bit more cost effective way, and get like huge volumes of users. So yeah, that's been my contribution.
Great. Uh, so can you emphasize some points regarding like top this is the 5 points you must understand and you must be bounded with if you're a marketer and in if you're in demand gen. So top 5 points you need to consider, you must consider according to you.
Yeah, so I think one thing that was kind of like a very big learning, 100K to 10 million, is that things change so rapidly from revenue milestones. The marketing strategy is very different at 100. Like, for example, at 100K to a million, it was basically, like trying out like 300 different marketing tactics and just figuring out which are the marketing tactics that actually work. And then those can become like the foundational channels, right? So it's more of lots of testing out different channels, figuring out what works for you, and find that foundational channel which you can mature it on, right? And you can build on top of that. And then, from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, all of these different revenue milestones have different challenges. Sometimes, the channel caps out. There's not a lot of room for growth. Sometimes the traffic, it kind of is flat and you can't do anything about it. Sometimes the product's LTV is kind of a limiting factor for the marketing team to not be able to kind of expand. There are all sorts of different challenges, and then you just have to find different ways to kind of do that. Sometimes it's even a channel grows to a point, a marketing channel grows to a point where it just requires very deep expertise, much more like 100 times more specialized person, then you can do that work. So then you need to kind of build like a more specialized team, within that mature channel and everything. So I think that's one thing that at every revenue, like for example, and the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes, you might see some articles, oh, Slack did this and they grew from here and there, right? Slack is whatever at 300, $500 million. I mean, it's probably not relevant to you if you're at like at a 1 million revenue milestone, right? So look at that, for sure. And then I guess the second thing on the demand gen side is that when you're kind of tackling, the whole strategic work on this, right? Always kind of look at, you know, like what's the price point of your product, right? Like let's say, for example, if your product is 100K annually, right? That's a very, very high price point. So it's not like someone will kind of click a link on your article and sign up to your product. That's not going to happen with a 100K product. It might happen with $100, $200, in the entire NTV, that kind of product that works, And so for that, we use these terms
Okay.
called high touch. So a 100K product is a very high touch product because it requires salespeople to kind of come in and, a long sales cycle, a complex sales cycle. While with a $100, $200 product, it's low touch. You sign up, for the product, trial it. If you like it, you'll buy it. And based on that, you need to kind of figure out what the strategy makes sense. Like for example, events might make sense with a 100K sales cycle, a 100K product, just because if you get two leads, there's a great ROI from the event. But if your LTV is 100, 200, events wouldn't make sense. But, on the other hand, SEO might make a lot of sense there because there's a lot of volume for a low SaaS. So, I mean, I guess you need to kind of look at, the business model and then define and decide like how you kind of want to build out your demand gen strategy.
So, as you mentioned about SEO, what are some SEO hacks you would like to share with our fellow marketers out there? Basically, scale your SEO.
Yeah, there are no hacks to SEO. At least I don't believe that. It's fairly simple. There are three components to it. You just need to do it really well. One is kind of create great content that solves problems of your customers. Second is your content experience, like how fast the page loads, how quickly do they get the valuable information and everything. And number three is link building. These three things, if you do really well, there's a ton of content out there. I don't think there's any hack that, oh, you do these things and there's no magic bullet in SEO. You just got to do these three things really well.
And what is that one mantra you believe a content marketer must follow?
Ask a lot of questions. Be very inquisitive. You know, ask questions from, prospective customers, from people who don't even want to try a product, who want to try a product. Ask questions from the leadership team. Ask questions from everybody. Just kind of like, I think that's the thing, because when you ask questions, you come up with a lot of breakthrough ideas, and the thing with breakthrough ideas is if you through a question get this great idea, you've basically gotten this idea before everybody's kind of utilized it and used it to the max, right? So you have, an early advantage. So yeah, just ask a lot of questions, be inquisitive, keep looking at your analytics data to understand, oh, you're getting a lot of users from this particular country. Why is that? Ask those questions, ask those people like, why are you signing up? What triggered you to sign up? That's really going to help you really mature as a content marketer.
Definitely, definitely. And in your content plan and strategy, how do you include personalization and how far is it useful for you?
Um, I don't like, so at least from the personalization that I saw today, kind of earlier today, right? Like, we don't do that kind of personalization yet, but it's our kind of personalization basically this, right? That there's a certain um, there's a certain topic that works very well for us. Like, I mean, there's a audience there that uses our product, and so within that, there are lots of subtopics and different things. And so the way we've basically done it is, yeah, we just cover every aspect of it, through different verticals. For example, a simple example is, how to create a contract, right? So um, if you kind of look at the top to the bottom of the funnel journey, right? The way I define it is problem unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, right? And if you're to tackle each of these, it can be how to create a contract for marketers, what's the best contract making software for marketers, which out of these three tools is the best contract making software. And through that, we can go with specific verticals and like really scale it. That's the level of personalization we go with, because in in our experience, like I think with when we kind of do any kind of personalization, I think it can definitely have a big impact, especially, like changing the name or the company name in kind of like the sign up page and all. I think that can have an impact, but I don't think it can have a very meaningful impact. Like it can probably increase our conversions from maybe like 1.1 to maybe 1.25% or something, but not huge. The real value of personalization comes is when you can kind of uh, you know give the right information to the right visitor at the right time. So what I mean by that is, if there's a marketer or if there's a developer that's coming to your website to try the product, they should only see developer related testimonials, they should only see developer related copy, they should only see developer related features, they should only see that language. And that's when they'll be like, oh my god, this product is really meant for me, right? And that's something we're yet to do, because yeah, I mean, like I've done that before at HubStuff. We did a lot of personalization there, but at Bonsai, it's not done too much.
That's really like uh, maybe valuable in this world, so nobody uh, particularly talks about it. So you must know about these things, I would say. Um, yeah, coming to next question. So you did host many podcasts, right? So how do you feel at opposite side of it, like as a speaker? So which one is your favorite as a speaker or as a host, and the reason behind it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So first of all, it's the same, because the remote marketing podcast. In case if any of your listeners don't know, the podcast name is actually called Remote Marketing Podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple, and Google, and all other places. But on the podcast, I have more episodes of me just talking to the audience versus interviewing people, right? I'm sometimes a listener, sometimes a speaker. So it's kind of the same for me. But my favorite podcast episode was actually this guy called Sanchar Sahin, who is basically the former VP of marketing at Typeform, former VP of marketing at Hotjar and GetApp, and he's got his own startup now. And it was almost like a marketing leadership masterclass, because the way he kind of described his perspective like really got me thinking, and like, oh, this is something that I should, like, at my core of the way I function as a marketing leader, I should probably modify. And it was such a insightful interview that a couple of months later, Sanchar and I actually, like, he became my mentor, and we've been working together ever since. We discuss complex challenges and stuff like that, and it's been one of the best decisions I've taken. So yeah, that by far, definitely. I mean, all podcast guests were amazing, and everyone had their own value. But I guess the one that really hit home for me was the one with Sanchar.
Got it, got it. And I am coming to the pandemic situation. Like we faced a lot of things since 2020, from the start of 2020, and this is almost 1.5 year. So our lives has changed and transformed a lot. So how Bonsai, when you also joined Bonsai, it was again a pandemic situation. So what was the case that time, and how did you face any challenges in the situation, and how did you overcome them? Or a B2B
Yeah,
SaaS company.
yeah. So it was a little bit of a, obviously, we came to a situation where nobody knew, what to kind of do here. Because I think every business definitely at that 1 month, like March, April, there were a lot of very high churn, lots of cancellations, people just pausing their accounts and stuff. So that was a little bit of a shock. But I think, and that's where it's very important to kind of have your, business economics quite right. Like we are a profitable company, so it's like, it wasn't like that, oh, our bank balance was getting massively affected. Like we had a runway for years. Um, but the one thing that we wanted to do was that we wanted to make sure that we cut as many costs as possible without having to let go of anyone. And one of the things, there are two major things that we did. One was that, like, for example, ads budget and all of that, we drastically cut those. Any unprofitable initiatives, we cut those. But the one thing that actually worked in our favor is that we're actually huge believers of kind of, wherever possible, we try to kind of first have, hire a freelancer or a contractor or an agency versus a full-time employee. Because the thing is that a freelancer contractor is a variable cost versus a full-time employee that's a fixed cost. So with an agency or freelancer, that can be scaled down when we whenever we want to. But a full-time employee, we can't just let go, right? So with agencies, freelancers, we kind of paused our contracts. That really helped us reduce the costs. But I think the good thing with our business was that, um, you know, it was a very temporary hit, and then we actually saw a pretty amazing growth, a month later, and that's primarily because it kind of worked in our favor that, because a lot of people were kind of, let go. A lot of them actually converted to freelancers and became contractors and stuff, and they started, as a result, started using our product, right? So in that way, it helped us, kind of grow, in a record-setting way in 2020. So that definitely worked in our favor. But from a marketing standpoint, that was one of the things we did. We cut our costs, whatever was profitable, very heavily profitable, only that stayed. Cut out any variable cost that we had that didn't make any sense. And then, yeah, it was just constant iterating, seeing how the situation goes, and that. And I think that's the thing with any good core marketing strategy, right? Like, there's always going to be pandemics that's going to hit down, it's going to affect your revenue and everything, right? But if the foundation is pretty solid, like pandemic or no pandemic, it's probably just going to have a 10-20% up and down for you, but you largely kind of still have majority of the revenue with
Definitely.
you. So yeah.
And is partnership marketing is a part of your lead generation process?
Yes, yes. So for the last 1 year, I've been working on our affiliate program, and yeah, it's a great channel. The only thing with partnership marketing or affiliate marketing is that there's very little information that's available, you know, on the internet about it. Like, yes, there's some blogs here and there, but and the other thing with affiliate marketing is that it's completely different for every company. So it's not like you can kind of, copy the same playbook that, this other similar company is doing and replicate it for you. It's almost like a sub business that you're building within your business, because, every affiliate has their own personalities, they have their own custom flows, they have their own, upgrade paths and stuff like that. So it's a difficult channel to scale, especially because, partnerships and affiliates are something that they will grow as your brand grows, because as your brand grows, as your branded searches grow, of course, there's going to be more and more people that want to be kind of promoting your product, right? But if you want to kind of put in additional investment right now to kind of scale that channel, then you've got to kind of think really creatively. How can you get a certain number of affiliates guaranteed every month to sign up and start promoting you? A lot of it is just very so yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of like my perspective on partnerships marketing so far.
And as you said, affiliate marketing helps in building your online presence. So any other most effective way you will recommend to increase your brand's online presence?
Yeah, affiliates is actually an amazing way to kind of improve your brand's presence, because here's the thing, right? Like, when I'm kind of purchasing a product, I never go to a company's website and read their case study or testimonials, because I know that it's always going to be biased, right? The company is writing that case study. How can it not be? But when I see a user's review or a case study about the product, then it's like it's an unbiased thing, right? And that will heavily influence the way I purchase, right? And if you have lots and lots of, like, if let's say someone goes on YouTube and searches for, I don't know, intercom reviews, and there's a gazillion number of users that have done their reviews, yeah, that's a huge indicator for the brand, that, oh, this is a product that a lot of people love and a lot of people talk about and use. So affiliates is actually a great contributor to the brand's side there. There's obviously a lot of different ways to do it to kind of improve your brand presence, but I guess the number one thing you should be kind of thinking about is how can you be a topical authority in an area where you have a very unique positioning, right? Like, for example, a simple example is that, if let's say, I don't know your market, but let's say if you have 50 personalization apps in the market, right? And everyone's kind of talking about, whatever, personalization and everything. Um, as a user, I'm like, oh, well, why would I want to kind of subscribe to custom fit? Like, what makes you guys different? But if let's say you're like, oh, we just talk about personalization, for SaaS companies in the B2B space, with an LTV of under 500, now you've got my interest because now you're product led, focus then, and you are different from the other personalization companies, right? And that's the thing, if you can build that topical authority around this unique positioning, that's a short way to kind of improve your brand presence. It's gonna and the best way to measure that is just look at your branded traffic on Search Console or analytics, and you'll see a slow increasing trend. And you've really got to invest on the content and SEO. Like, one of the things that's great that you guys are doing with this Growth Fit interview series is you're it seems clear that marketers are something that work for you. So you're talking to a lot of people and gathering all of these insights. That's a great start. And I think that's what makes you different from the other one. So I guess that's the main thing with brand. Like, you need to have that topical authority with a unique positioning.
That's a great learning for us too, Madhav. Like we get to learn at least 4 to 5 things, speaking to others, speaking to veterans, speaking to even fellow marketers can give us a feedback about what this thing didn't work. Even some of my friends see this interview series, and they also give feedback. This was good, this was not good, so you can work on this. So this is a great learning for us too, I would say.
No,
And
absolutely.
this improves you.
Yeah. And just to kind of give a little bit of a honest opinion on this, right? Like, I think the reason I kind of even started my own podcast was not just kind of sharing my learnings, but also, like, if there's a channel that you don't have an idea about, the best way to know it is to talk to the people who are doing it, right? And that, like, in every episode that I've done, with guests,
Definitely.
there's always these tremendous learnings that come, which compounded over time can, become this huge, amazing playbook that you can follow, right? And that's why, earlier on into the interview, I said, it's the best way to grow as a content marketer, even as a business heavy, it's just to be inquisitive, ask questions, talk to as many people, get people on the phone in however way as possible, and collect that information. So yeah, I agree with you.
And when all this content, SEO, affiliate marketing, uh, this all comes in picture. I can say I can see one part which is most important, that is data. So what is your take about data, like how it is important, and what is your secret formula in designing a campaign, and what all things you consider, what all data points you consider in designing a campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it varies for business to business. Like, again, with a low touch SaaS, the number one thing that you care about is number of new customers, new signups, and everything, right? And that defines why, how you kind of do the campaigns. And if it's a high touch SaaS, it's really the number of quality leads that you can kind of pass over to the sales team. Those are kind of like the major numbers that define. And then it obviously changes a little bit. Like, for example, with paid ads, I can give you an example. we obviously, have a large advertising budget, we spend it on a lot of different channels. But let's say we want to kind of expand and look at other channels, for example, YouTube or Reddit, right? One of the things that we do there, as a starting point to kind of test for the channel and use data is, um, we we will basically, spend money and gather the data. We like to say it as buy the data, and understand, is there even some potential. So let's say we put $8,000 on YouTube, and then do we get even one or two conversions? If not, if we just get zero conversions, then it means there's no direct ROI on that, right? And then we can kind of take some decisions. The same thing is with content stuff, right? Like, for example, if there are certain articles that are performing better than others, right? It can kind of give us an indication that perhaps that's a topic that Google is really valuing us for. So we're going to create more content there, doubling down on what works basically. And then, if there's an article that got a lot of backlinks or virality, again, the data will say that, oh, you've got 300 backlinks there, you've got this, it's having a positive impact on your SEO and stuff. We're going to double down on it and create more and more pieces. So absolutely, like, data is definitely at the center of all those decisions. But eventually, like, the number one metric you really just care about is signups, high quality leads, new customers, right? That's the major thing. The more you kind of start going up the funnel, the more metrics start becoming vanity metrics, and that's something you should remember for sure.
And which one is your favorite, paid one or organic one?
Oh man, that's a difficult one because the thing is that, I mean, I want to, like, it's a difficult question to answer because it's like, ideally I want. So, okay, so the answer is new customers. Absolutely, like, that's the number one metric there. But the thing is that I think as you kind of start maturing, as you start kind of growing the business to certain revenue milestones, it's easier to attribute revenue to certain channels in the initial stages of your journey. But I think beyond that, you have to kind of look at it large scale, right? You don't have to look at I invested this much money on this campaign for the 3 months, so I need to get an ROI in the next 3 months. You need to kind of look at things 2 years later where there's no attributable impact there, because you need to start looking at things on a more account level, on a more company level, that all right, are the unit economics the same across the company level? That's what you care about. So anyway, short answer to this: number of new customers.
And coming to the last two questions of our episode. So, first one is, what is that one advice which is the most important to you, a fellow marketer must understand? Any kind of that one advice you would like to give to our fellow marketers?
Um, I think there's a couple. So
Okay,
yeah,
please.
I think the number one thing, and that was the number one learning that I've had the last couple of years, is that if you're a marketing lead at a company, or even if you're kind of like a founder or a CMO, um, when you think about marketing, think of it like a investment portfolio. All right. And every channel is all of these, these things in your portfolio. And what you're basically looking to find is the one with the lowest risk and the highest return, right? And based on that, you define how you kind of spend. So, for example, if SEO is relatively low risk because you've talked to other founders and you've found that it works for them, and if it's working for you, um, you should start investing more and more and more in that, and continue to monitor if the unit economics remain the same or continue to be better, because then it shows, does a channel have the ability to absorb the investment, right? And that's the thing you should look at across the portfolio overall, like, even as you kind of grow 2 years, 3 years, if once you cross 5 million, 10 million, that's the thing you should keep looking at. Like, what does your portfolio look like? How is your budget being spent here and there? What do the unit economics look like? And which are kind of like the dominant secondary channels? How do the company level unit economics look like? It has to be looked at it like like you are an investment manager. You're basically defining how you invest there, right? So I think that's one thing that's a little bit on a leadership level. And I guess the second thing on a more tactical level, is um, spend a lot of time doing your own critical thinking. All right. Because I think it's very easy to kind of, this person does the podcast,
Hmm.
I'll do a podcast too, right? That won't, I mean, that's not copying and pasting can work sometimes, but it won't take you very far. What you should be looking at is that,
Hmm.
you know, what are the opportunities out there that none of these people have tried? Because that's where I'd almost say like this golden um, golden period of that channel lives. That's where you're the only person who's getting the best amount of coverage from there, and utilize that to a point where eventually people get to know about it, and then you can kind of move on to the next, right? But it requires you to talk to people, talk to customers. Like a simple example is that, like an interesting example is I was kind of speaking to an affiliate, one of our leading affiliates, and one of the reasons they've been getting a lot of customers is because they write an article on Medium, and there are like these 5 or 6 article sites, big media sites that syndicate that content, right? That was a very interesting learning. A Medium article publisher has been able to get these 5, 6 sites to syndicate, right? And nobody knows about it. None of our competitors know about it and everything, right? So how can you do that? How can you do that to a point until competitors discover it? That'll require
Hmm.
you to kind of sit down, think, make a plan, and everything, right? Like so. Absolutely. And I think the more you critically think, the more you'll get these breakthrough ideas, the more you'll be able to kind of get a lot of success in your work. And so yeah.
I think that's a learning for me too. That's a uh, golden two words. That's critical thinking, which is most important uh, in today's era.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, who all are your mentors in this marketing and growth sector?
So I have mentors for kind of different I have mentor coach for like different aspects, right? Like I already told you Sansar is kind of like my mentor with strategic marketing work. And then I of course have like a group of people who I connect with, if there's a certain problem for a certain channel. These are all people I've previously worked with or connected with through some other way. And then I have, a different coach, which is just kind of, sometimes these leadership roles can be a little bit stressful. So you need a stress coach to kind of be able to kind of tackle those situations. So I have a coach for that. So it's different for different scenarios, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Madhav. Right, this was a really knowledgeable session for us, and this must be a knowledgeable session for everyone who will be watching this session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here in Growth Fit interview series. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot.